As we continue on through Rankings Week here on the channel, we now move to the small forward position. As I've done for several years now, I update my rankings of the best players in the NBA by position twice per year, once midway through the season and once in the offseason after all the action concludes. And now that every team has played about 50 games or so, we're past the midway mark, making it the perfect time to bring it back. I've already released the videos for the rankings of the point guards and the shooting guards, so if you missed those, be sure to go check them out after you watch this one. The small forward position that we'll be focusing on today has some of the biggest names in the sport at the top, and some solid two-way contributors rounding out the list, making it a very interesting group. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Before we get into the top 10, we'll start with a few honorable mentions that just missed the cut, and the players that fall into this category are Chris Middleton, Tobias Harris, and Michael Porter Jr. I have to say right off the bat that Chris Middleton at full strength comfortably makes the top 10 list and ranks over quite a few players that we will discuss later in the video. However, he has been injured for quite some time now, and in the action that we've seen from him so far this year, he's been on a minutes restriction working through a lot of rust. If he regains his prior form by the end of the year, then he will absolutely shoot up the list in the next installment, but for a ranking of the best players right now, he's not at that point currently. For the other two, Tobias has embraced a lesser role and done well within it, scoring more efficiently inside and out while playing some solid defense, and Michael Porter Jr. has returned from his injury this year to provide some lights out shooting to a top-ranked Denver team. Now to start things off at number 10 on this list, we have RJ Barrett of the New York Knicks. RJ is tough to analyze in this sense because he's one of the streakiest and least consistent players at the position, but he has the talent to make a big impact. He's an aggressive scorer when he has the ball in his hands, averaging about 20 points per game this year, but he's just not efficient enough as you would like him to be, making just 43% of his shots and 34% of his threes, which comes in slightly below league average. With the addition of Jalen Brunson to the team, the Knicks are improved overall, but it has resulted in Barrett being stuck in a weird spot where he's not as much of a focal point of their offense anymore, so at times he can find himself forcing things. He's obviously a very good player, but he's the one who barely made the cut only because Chris Middleton isn't fully back from injury. Next up at number 9, we have Mikal Bridges of the Phoenix Suns. Bridges emerged as one of the best defensive players in the NBA last season, finishing as the runner-up in the Defensive Player of the Year race, and this year, even though he hasn't quite been that dominant defensively, he's still one of the best perimeter defenders in the league while taking strides forward offensively. He's scoring a career-high 17 points per game, knocking down a reliable 46% of his shots and 39% of his threes. He's improved as a creator off the dribble, and in the absence of Devin Booker, he's picked up some of the slack to keep the Suns afloat. Up next at number 8, we have OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors. Anunoby is a hot commodity right now because the trade deadline is approaching and rumor has it he very well may be on the move. This season he has arguably been the best perimeter defender in the NBA, using his size, strength, and length to hound opponents, and he's doing so while giving balanced production offensively as well. He's putting up about 17 points per game on league average efficiency, which isn't the most notable, but his versatility, being able to defend inside and out, along with the fact that he ranks second in the NBA in steals per game this year, is going to have a ton of teams calling Toronto about trying to acquire him, and wherever he goes, that team will be receiving an immediate boost to both sides of the ball. Up next at number 7, we have Andrew Wiggins of the Golden State Warriors. Wiggins settled into his role on the Warriors perfectly last season, where he locked in defensively, embraced being the third option offensively, and played a winning, efficient brand of basketball for maybe the first time in his career. That momentum has definitely translated into this season as well. The only issue has been the fact that he's struggled a bit with injuries that have held him out of about 20 games so far. He did make his return from injury this week, and he doesn't look like he's going to be held back by it moving forward, so now is the time to anticipate the Warriors get things going again, because Wiggins was a big factor for their success last season. Up next at number 6, we have Brandon Ingram of the New Orleans Pelicans. Ingram has been starting to take strides forward as a bona fide star in the league lately, and last year he got to experience his first taste of playoff action where he definitely did impress. As a scorer, his development has been incredible to watch because when he first came into the league, he was a little too scrawny to finish through contact around the rim, and now he uses his length to overwhelm opposing defenders at the basket while also posing as a threat to pull up and shoot over them because he is a silky smooth three-level scorer. Unfortunately, the injury bug has also struck him this year, as he's only been able to play 18 games to this point, but when the Pelicans are at full strength, they've shown they can be one of the best teams in the league, and Ingram is a big reason why. Next up at number 5, we have DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls. DeRozan went to Chicago last year and immediately had the best year of his career, helping lead them to the playoffs after a bit of a drought in that regard. Unfortunately though, that magic has worn off on the Bulls as they are not currently in the playoff picture, but it's definitely not because DeRozan hasn't been doing his part. He's still dominating the mid-range, scoring 26 points per game, making 51% of his shots, he's still someone they go to down the stretch to close games out, and he's also a solid secondary playmaking option, creating for those around him, so despite the Bulls disappointing as a whole, DeRozan is still definitely a top dog at the position. Next up at number 4, we have Jimmy Butler of the Miami Heat. Butler is one of the most peculiar players to try to rank because what he does in the regular season versus what he does in the playoffs is night and day. Last season, he once again showed he can take over a playoff series and perform like one of the best players in the league, but this regular season so far has been him being on cruise control for much of it, and unfortunately, the Heat as a whole have been a little bit disappointing compared to last year, being in 6th place in the conference at the moment, but with that being said, nobody wants to play them in the first round because of what Jimmy is capable of doing when the lights are brightest. Up next at number 3, we have Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi is another player who returned from a serious injury this season, and while he started the year pretty slowly, he's been turning things up a notch looking like his former self over the last 11 games. In that span, he's been averaging about 30 points per game on red-hot shooting splits, he's one of the best two-way players in the league, and the Clippers desperately need to see this side of him for the rest of the season if they want to get themselves back into contention in a wide-open Western Conference. Next up at number 2, we have LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers. After spending almost his entire career sitting at the top spot on these lists, he has unfortunately been passed up. However, with that being said, the things that he is doing at 38 years old are otherworldly. This Lakers roster, to put it simply, is not very good, but LeBron is going out every night trying to carry them to keep them afloat to possibly make the play-in tournament. He's putting up 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists per game, shooting the ball 51% from the field, and we've never seen someone his age produce at this elite of a level before. And finally, the number 1 spot on this list goes to Jayson Tatum of the Boston Celtics. Tatum has taken his game to another level this year, and for the first time in his career, he is a legitimate MVP candidate. He's leading the way for the first place Boston Celtics by putting up 31 points and 9 rebounds per game. His shot making has been so good overall, and once he gets going, it's honestly so tough to slow him down. The Celtics are a well-oiled machine, and it certainly helps when you've got this guy producing at the level that he's been so far this year. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you would rank the small forwards at the current moment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.